Welcome, everyone. Today's story is not just about a company. It's about an idea. An idea that was born out of frustration, rejection, and failure. It's about two people who were not tech gods, not billionaires, not famous when they started. They were just two normal human beings, with one small question in their minds. Why can't watching movies be easier? Why do people still suffer for renting entertainment? This simple frustration turned into a quiet revolution. This quiet revolution destroyed Blockbuster, one of the biggest movie companies in the world. And from that destruction, a new empire was born: Netflix. In this video, we are going deep, very deep, into the full, real, and detailed story of Netflix. We will cover everything: how it started with a $40 late fee, how people laughed at the idea, how the founders were rejected and insulted, how they nearly went bankrupt, how they offered their company to Blockbuster and were humiliated, how they came back with a silent plan that destroyed the giant, and how they became one of the most powerful companies on earth, changing the way the entire world watches movies. This is not just a business story. This is a story of revenge without violence, obsession without fame, building in silence while everyone doubted you, turning rejection into motivation, outsmarting those who once laughed at you. So if you're someone who has ever been told, your idea is stupid, you can't do this, no one cares what you're building, then stay with me, because this story is going to prove something powerful to you. You don't need to be loud to win. You just need to be consistent, patient, and quietly obsessed. This story isn't just for motivation. It's also great for your English. You'll hear real vocabulary about business, risk, emotion, and success in easy and clear English. You'll learn how to understand big ideas like rejection, obsession, growth, innovation, mindset. Every sentence in this story is written to help you improve listening skills, learn sentence structure, build confidence in understanding English naturally. And because it's told like a movie, you'll stay engaged, and that helps your brain remember English longer. So if you're learning English, this story will help you grow fast, without feeling like you're studying. Now, let's begin the full journey. Here is part 1 of the true, detailed, and powerful story of Netflix. Part 1. The $40 mistake that started a revolution. In 1997, a man named Reed Hastings returned a rented movie to Blockbuster, the most powerful video rental company in America at the time. But he was late, and Blockbuster charged him $40 in late fees. Now imagine this. He was not poor. He had money. He was a software engineer. He was educated. But that one late fee made him angry in a way no one expected. He thought, why am I paying a fine for entertainment? Feel fair. He didn't forget the movie. Irresponsible. He was just busy, like most people. But Blockbuster didn't care. That $40 seed in Reed Hastings' mind. A seed made of curiosity and a quiet whisper that said, to be a better way. At that time, giant. They had more than 9,000 stores. People lined up to rent VHS tapes and DVDs, but their system was old, frustrating, and unfair. 2. Go to the store physically, pick a DVD, remember to return it within a few days. You were punished with a late fee, the cost of the movie itself. And Reed thought, what if people didn't have to go to the... What if people movies from home? What if there were no late fees at all? Now pause. This is very important. Millions of people had this same frustration, but they just complained and moved on. Reed did something different. He turned frustration into fuel. Reed had a friend and business partner named Mark Randolph. He wasn't a billionaire. He didn't come from a rich family. He was just a dreamer who loved ideas, storytelling, and entrepreneurship. One day, Reed walked into Mark's office and said, "What if we create a service that lets people rent movies? By mail?" Mark was confused. Mail? Like people order a movie and we ship it to them? Reed nodded. Yes, and no late fees, and they can keep it as long as they want. That moment, in a simple office with 0 investors, 0 team, 0 technology, was the birth of Netflix. They didn't have a plan. They didn't have a product, but they had a vision. Make renting movies fair, easy, and modern. Before launching anything, they decided to do a test. They took a CD, not even a movie DVD, just a music CD. They put it inside a small envelope. They wrote an address. They dropped it in the mailbox. Then, they waited. Would it break? Would it arrive? Would it get lost? A few days later, the CD arrived. Perfectly. That one moment told them, it's possible. We can do this. The first version of Netflix, 1997. They built a small website. It had a few movies listed. Very basic design. Users could go online, click a movie, and get it by mail. There were no ads, no streaming, no big studios behind them. Just 2 men, a few employees, and a vision. They named it Netflix, a combination of internet and flicks, slang for movies. It was simple, strange, and new. People didn't trust it at first. Why would I rent a movie from a website? I already have Blockbuster. But Netflix didn't stop. They knew something Blockbuster didn't. The future is not about punishment. It's about freedom. In 1999, Netflix made a bold move. They introduced a monthly subscription plan. Instead of paying per movie, users could pay a small monthly fee, rent as many movies as they wanted, keep them as long as they liked, and return them when they were ready. No late fees. It was unheard of. Nobody in the video industry was doing this. But it solved a huge problem. And slowly, the world started to listen. At this stage, Blockbuster was still laughing. They were making billions from late fees. They thought Netflix was a toy, a joke. But Netflix was growing, not loudly, not quickly, but quietly, one customer at a time. People who tried it loved it, because it was simple, kind, and modern. And this quiet storm was about to become a massive wave. By the year 2000, Netflix was growing, but they had a loyal base of loved the subscription model. They were sending DVDs by mail every day. People appreciated the no late fees, the freedom, and the comfort of choosing movies from home. But behind the scenes, Netflix was bleeding money. They were spending more than they were earning. They had warehouses to manage. They had to pay for shipping, employees, servers, customer service. But they weren't profitable. They were losing millions of dollars. He knew Netflix was doing something great. He believed the world would change. But time was running out. They had no backup if they failed, and no one wanted to invest. So one day, Reed made a bold decision. He walked into Mark Randolph's office and said, "Let's offer to sell Netflix." Mark was surprised. "To who?" Reed replied. "To the giant, to Blockbuster, to Blockbuster. That was the moment that would change everything. Reed and Mark booked a meeting with John Antioco, the CEO of Blockbuster. This was a huge deal. Blockbuster was worth billions. They had over 9,000 stores in more than 20 countries. They were making money from every direction: rental fees, snacks, video games, and especially late fees. Netflix? Just a startup with losses. But Reed believed that if Blockbuster understood the vision, they would join forces. He thought, what if Netflix became the online arm of Blockbuster? We handle the website, the DVD mailing, and Blockbuster handles the stores. It could be a win-win. They flew to Dallas, walked into Blockbuster's luxurious office, and sat across the table. Reed explained the idea passionately. He said, "You dominate physical stores. We dominate online rentals. Let's partner. Or, you can buy Netflix." John Antioco asked, "For how much?" Reed said, $50 million. There was silence in the room. Then, they laughed. Yes, they laughed, right in their faces. $50 million for a DVD website that loses money? Blockbuster's executives mocked them. To them, Netflix was nothing. Just a tiny business with no physical presence. A joke. Reed and Mark left the meeting with red faces and a fire in their chest. They weren't just rejected, they were humiliated. That moment changed everything. Mark and said, "All right then, let's destroy them." They didn't fight back with words. They didn't post on social media. They didn't complain to the world. They did something 10 times more powerful. They went back to work. Reed and Mark doubled down. They improved the website. They made the algorithm smarter. They reduced the DVD delivery time. They hired better people. They studied what customers loved and gave more of it. And slowly, customer by customer, month by month, Netflix began to rise. Blockbuster didn't notice. They were busy making billions and enjoying power. But while they were sleeping, Netflix was building. Here's a very important detail most people don't know. Netflix introduced something that changed everything. A movie recommendation algorithm. In simple words, the Netflix website would watch what you rented, learn your taste, and suggest movies you would probably love. This made people stay longer on the website. It made choosing easier. It made Netflix feel personal. It's a DVD company anymore. It was a data-driven entertainment experience. One innovation made users feel seen, understood, and valued. By 2003, Netflix had crossed 1 million subscribers. People were loving the convenience, driving to the store. No more late fees, no more waiting in line. Blockbuster started noticing the shift. They saw their revenue shrinking, but they still believed Netflix was temporary. To them, Netflix was a mosquito, not a threat. So what did Blockbuster do? They launched a copycat, Blockbuster Online. But it was too late. Netflix already had years of data, loyalty, and a better system. And most importantly, Netflix had no ego. Blockbuster didn't want to kill their stores, because they made billions from late fees. Netflix, on the other hand, only the future to build. By 2005, Netflix had millions of happy users, a brilliant tech system, low prices, and full control of the online rental space. Blockbuster, they tried. Cutting prices, removing late fees, too late. But people had already fallen in love with Netflix. Why? Because Netflix didn't punish them. Netflix didn't treat them like criminals for forgetting a DVD. Netflix made entertainment feel human, respectful, and modern. Let's talk about what was happening inside the company at this time. Reed Hastings believed in one core idea: freedom. Treat them like adults. That's why had no strict dress code. Let employees take unlimited vacation as long as they delivered results. Focused on hiring smart, honest people and giving them space to do great work. This company culture created trust, innovation, and speed. While Blockbuster was old systems and arrogance, Netflix became a home for rebels, creators. Part 2. The boldest move that killed a giant. By 2006, Netflix was already winning the battle of DVD rentals. They had crushed Blockbuster's online attempt. They were reaching millions of subscribers. And their system, built on freedom, personalization, and no late fees, had become a silent movement. Reed Hastings was still not satisfied. Yes, Netflix had grown. Yes, they had loyal customers. But Reed saw something that almost no one else saw at the time. He saw the end of DVDs. He saw the beginning of something invisible. He saw the future. Reed looked at his team and asked, "What if people could watch movies instantly? No mail, no envelopes, no waiting." Everyone was confused. In 2006, streaming was a new word. Internet speeds were slow. Watching a full movie online seemed like a crazy dream. But Reed wasn't focused on today. He was building for tomorrow. He believed, if we don't disrupt ourselves, someone else will. Let's pause for a moment and explain the concept of streaming in the simplest way. Streaming means you don't download the movie. You don't wait for a DVD. You just click and the movie starts playing online, like magic. It's what we now use every day. But in 2006, it was revolutionary. There was no YouTube Premium, no Amazon Prime, no Disney Plus. Netflix was about to do something no one in the industry had dared to try. Reed told his engineers to build a system for online movie streaming. But there were challenges. Many customers still used slow internet. Movie studios didn't want to give online rights. No one had done this before at scale. Netflix took a risk. They invested millions in streaming technology. They started negotiating with studios to allow their films online. They trained their users to try watching online instead of waiting for mail. And in 2007, Netflix officially launched instant streaming. Some customers were excited. "I can just click and watch? That's amazing." Others were confused. What if my internet is slow? What if the movie stops in the middle? Netflix knew this would happen. They weren't expecting overnight success, but they were betting on one powerful truth. The future always starts small. The internet would get faster. Laptops would improve. People would eventually prefer convenience over physical media. While Netflix was quietly moving into streaming, Blockbuster was busy trying to catch up with DVDs, already too late. They were stuck in a cycle of ego and short-term thinking. Blockbuster believed, our stores make billions. People love coming in. Streaming will never work. They didn't see that customers were already tired. Tired of driving. Tired of paying late fees. Tired of standing in line. Tired of being punished for forgetting a return, Netflix offered a quiet rebellion. Stay home, get comfortable, watch instantly. And people slowly started switching sides. By 2008, Blockbuster was falling fast. Their stock dropped, their revenue shrank, their loyal customers were leaving. Even their best employees were jumping ship to newer companies. They tried launching a streaming service, but they were years behind, and their brand had already been damaged. Netflix had taken the lead, not by being loud, but by being early, smart, and brave. And this time, there was no turning back. While Blockbuster was falling, Netflix kept innovating. Here's what they did next. Step by step. 1. They made streaming better. Netflix invested in content delivery networks, CDNs. These made movies load faster and play smoother. Video compression, so even slow internet could stream movies. Simple user interface, so even non-tech people could use it easily. They studied how people watched, when they paused, what they skipped, and used that data to improve everything. 2. They improved recommendations. Netflix didn't just show random movies. Their system noticed your habits, analyzed your past choices, recommended titles you personally were likely to love. This made people spend hours on Netflix because it felt like the platform knew them. 3. They expanded globally. After their US success, Netflix slowly moved into Canada, Latin America, Europe, Asia, Africa. Each country had different tastes, languages, and cultures. So Netflix adapted, added subtitles, bought rights to local films, created language-specific interfaces. This helped them become a global brand, not just an American company. 4. They focused on trust. Netflix made sure their website never crashed, streaming never failed, payments were secure, customer service was fast and kind. This made people trust them. And in business, trust is everything. By 2010, something unthinkable happened. Netflix was now the leader in home entertainment. Blockbuster, once worth billions, filed for bankruptcy. Their stores were shut down one by one. The company that laughed at Netflix was now dead. It wasn't a war. There was no fight in public. Netflix killed Blockbuster without screaming. They did it by evolving, by seeing the future, by listening to customers, and by staying focused while the giants slept. By now, people were saying, "Let's Netflix tonight." Are you watching anything on Netflix? I binged an entire show. Netflix wasn't just a company anymore. It was becoming a part of life. Just like Google means search, Netflix started meaning watch. That's when Reed Hastings and the team knew. We're not just a service, we're now the future of entertainment. Part 3. From renting to ruling. How Netflix became the world's entertainment king. By the end of 2010, Netflix had already done the impossible. They had destroyed Blockbuster, the most powerful name in movie rentals. They had changed the way people watched movies, from mailing DVDs to streaming online. They had become a trusted, growing, and beloved brand in millions of homes. But once again, Reed Hastings wasn't satisfied. He asked his team one simple but powerful question. What happens if one day the movie studios stop giving us their content? Because here's what most people didn't know. Netflix was only a platform. They streamed movies and shows, but they didn't own them. They were renting entertainment from major studios like Warner Brothers, Disney, Paramount, and others. And that was a dangerous place to be. Reed believed that the future of Netflix could not depend on other people. He wanted full control. Because renting other people's content meant they could raise prices anytime. They could remove movies anytime. They could partner with Netflix's competitors anytime. So he told his team, "We are not just a tech company anymore. We are going to become a studio. We will create shows and films under the Netflix name." At first, many people thought this was a terrible idea. Netflix had no experience in film production, no Hollywood connections, no big actors, no directors, no track record. But Reed was used to doubt. He didn't care about opinions. He cared about direction. In 2011, Netflix heard that a few studios were discussing a remake of a British political drama called House of Cards. It wasn't a superhero story. It wasn't an action-packed blockbuster. It was a slow, serious, dark show about politics, betrayal, and power. But Netflix did something no one expected. HBO and NBC, offering $100 million to make 2 seasons of House of Cards. Yes. A tech company with no filmmaking experience just offered $100 million to make a serious drama. And they didn't ask for a pilot episode. They gave full freedom to the creator. Why? Because Netflix had data. They knew. Millions of people loved political dramas. Kevin Spacey, the lead actor, had a strong fan base. People who watched similar shows, watched all the episodes, binge-watching. So Netflix trusted their data and made a massive bet. Here's what shocked the industry even more. When Netflix launched House of Cards in 2013, they didn't release 1 episode per week like TV channels. Instead, they dropped the full season, all episodes, at once. Why? Because their data showed that people loved binge-watching. They didn't want to wait a week for the next episode. Wanted to finish a show in one night, one weekend, one breath. This changed the entire TV industry. Had control over watched, freedom from TV's power to decide their pace. House of Cards became a global hit, won Emmy Awards, got amazing reviews, gave Netflix credibility as a content